Lee Camp.
Hey, man.
Welcome to Government Secrets, episode 39, halfway to 78.
Did the math myself. I don't know how I feel about this show now looking like the Marine Sergeant and the guy he was yelling at. Cut the hair, hippie!
You godless communist! I'm gonna shave your head, maggot! Like that's
what are you queer? What are you lady? Are you a female?
Do you wanna? You probably are gonna fuck me in the ass without the compensation, so you're giving me a reach around. That's a quote from Arlie Emery in Full Metal Jacket. That's how I model my life after, is Arlie Emery's character in Full Metal Jacket. Like, I'm gonna find we're gonna be on the road and we're gonna be in the green room before a show, and I'm gonna find a donut in your bag, and I'm gonna go, "Holy Jesus, is this a donut in your locker?"
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's pretty disconcerting, but I think it's good. I think maybe, for new people tuning in, I think this is what they need to find is like, oh, this is someone educating a Marine colonel.
This is just a Marine colonel's first day learning about the reality of the country he's sworn to defend. Like, what?
What?
Who's this Smedley Butler? Is he some hippie? No, sir. Actually, he's the highest ranking Marine ever. Oh, no. Everything's a lie. And then, like, cut to 6 months later, I've just, like, dreadlocks. Henna tattoos, like, just totally checked out because everything's a lie to the Marine
Corps. Got the Mike Tyson face tattoo. Yeah.
just those ear gauges, just like out, just done, just checked out. Just well, how's your? I should tell you this piece of information.
Okay.
So we all know what happened. Leafgate was one of the more serious events that this show's had to cover.
It was one of the more serial events as well. It went for at least 14 episodes.
It was a 14-episode arc.
It was a serial murder of your car.
It was absolutely a serial murder of my car, without a doubt. My car got murdered, and we had to deal with the insurance and all of that. So I was driving just rental cars, and then I've since moved, and I've moved to a new place. And so I don't have a car, and the rental car prices have gone through the roof because they've opened it up for
there's been like crazy rental car shit.
Yeah. So what happened a year ago when everything got shut down, and this happened like nationwide, the rental car companies like Hertz filed for bankruptcy. They sold off a bunch of their cars. So in the last month where everything's been opened way more up, and all these tourist states, Florida, Hawaii, even California, so all these tourists started coming, and they don't have cars. They don't have enough. So they've had to sell them. So it's like $200 a day for a rental car, just something insane like that. So I was like, do I get a used car, this or that? I don't know. And I looked at some used cars, and I'm like,
I actually, sorry, real quick. I actually went, this is weeks ago, this is like Thanksgiving or something. I had reserved a car to go see my parents. And I show up at the place, and they're like, yeah, about that. It was Enterprise. They're like, we don't have any cars. We thought there might be some here. And I was like, don't you have like 52 Enterprises within like a stone's throw? Can't you get other cars from? Like, yeah, they don't have cars either. And all I could think about was the fucking scene from Seinfeld, where he goes to get the rental car, and the woman's like, yeah, we don't have any cars. And he's like, I made a reservation. She's like, I'm aware. And he's like, the whole point of reservation is that you hold the car. She goes, I know how to take reservations. He goes, I don't think you do. He's like, anyone can take reservations. The key is holding the reservation.
Oh, that's the step I always miss. Oh, I'm just supposed to hold it.
And I was like, wow, I never thought I'd be living this in real life. But yeah.
So that's where we're at. But I am set to test drive a Chevy Bolt, all electric.
Oh no, I'm terrified.
And it's a 2020, and they're cutting the prices on them because the 21s are rolling in. So it's an all-electric 240-mile range, and if all goes well, Lee, I will be owning my 3rd electric vehicle.
And are you going to again park it on the median of a highway? I think that was a poor choice.
I think the wrong way on an off ramp is a fine place to park. I don't know why everyone's making a big deal about it. So yeah, there's a monster truck rally training ground near me, so I'll probably just park it there overnight.
Well, leave it there. There was actually a bunch of cars already parked there, so I just left it at the end of that line, and I didn't go fine.
And I didn't realize the guy was going to drive over it with these tires. I didn't. Shit. So yeah, let's hope I don't do that again.
Yeah, well, we all got our fingers crossed for your new car.
So episode 40, with this episode, today's episode 39, episode 40 could be the first episode with a new electric car. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
If the next car gets destroyed, I'm limiting you to 5 episodes about it. Executive decision.
What if someone with ties to Epstein destroys my car? Then what are we going to do? Then,
that would break government secrets, I think. It
would shatter it. It would
YouTube, at that point, YouTube would throw up its hands and actually remonetize you.
They would be like, all right, and give him back wages. I don't know what to do anymore at this point. Like,
this is getting too weird. Yeah.
Give him 1 million subscribers. We're done. We're out. So Lee Camp, what do you want to talk about today on Gov't?
Well, so I have 2 stories, but one of them is actually an addendum, an update.
Government secrets update.
Of a story from last week. We covered the Move 9 bombing last week from 1985, 1986, when the Philadelphia Police Department decided to bomb a group of their own citizens and allow the entire block to burn down, killing 11 people. And I meant to mention this last week, but forgot that there was an update last week on that story. What is, Graham, and by the way, well, I'll tell you in a second, but I put a link in the private chat for you. But what is the most horrifying update you could imagine for that story?
Oh, man. They've decided to give each police helicopter a duffel bag full of bombs that they can just randomly throw out a window on any given day. Is that...
I feel like that's happening, and B, I feel like that's slightly less horrifying, actually. So whenever you have it up, you can highlight the Guardian article. The bones of the children that were burned to death in that fire, in that bombing in Philadelphia in the 80s, have been used for years in an anthropology course or multiple anthropology courses in an Ivy League school. University of Pennsylvania and Princeton. And this just came out last week. Someone revealed that these courses were using these bones without the permission of the parents or anyone connected to these children. To read a bit from the article, the bones of black children who died in 1985 after their home was bombed by Philadelphia police in a confrontation with the Black Liberation Group, which was raising them, are being used as a quote-unquote case study in an online forensic anthropology course presented by an Ivy League professor. It has emerged that the physical remains of 1 or possibly 2 of the children who were killed in the aerial bombing of the MOVE organization have been guarded over the past 36 years in the anthropological collections of the University of Pennsylvania and Princeton. The institutions have held on to the heavily burned fragments and since 2019 have been deploying them for teaching purposes without the permission of the deceased living parents.
You're right. You couldn't find a worse thing.
More horrifying.
Wow. It's a little early in the show for me to into the I have no faith in America anymore moment, but man.
Yeah, sorry to hit you early.
It's the white privilege of the Ivy Leagues. Another reason to hate Ivy League schools, I guess. I don't know. Is that where we should go?
Yeah. I think you can. I think you throw that in there. I think you could throw in some sort of cultural racism about the remains of Black people versus the remains of white people. I think you throw that in there as well. But yeah, this was actually, I was covering the Move 9 last week for other reasons, but this actually only came out last week.
Is it going to take them another 30 years to apologize for this? Like it took them-
It very well might. Yeah, and this was also revealed in the week or the week after that it was like the first time the city of Philadelphia was going to that had put forward a official apology for what went down in the 80s, for the murders, massacre in the 80s.
It's yeah, is there anything fixable about the foundations of America? is America, because can America be repaired, or is it just like, you know what, maybe we're done? Like, it's just like, I don't know, because this obviously was just like, oh, who cares about the remains of activists who were killed by the police that they didn't have to acknowledge or apologize for 30 years. And then we'll give them to two wealthy Ivy League universities in that state. I mean, against Princeton is in New Jersey, but Penn is obviously in Pennsylvania, where Philly is. So,
well, and Philly's like a stone's throw from Jersey. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I say this, these two universities, I know they have a lot of money, Ivy League schools. So there needs to be some financial.
Yeah, you'd think they could buy some other people's bones. I mean,
or at least pay the people's or offer the family, like, hey, can we use these for, educational reasons? Here's a nice check. So both of these universities, if they have an ounce of intelligence, which just because you're in the Ivy League doesn't mean that at all. It just means you had rich parents.
Right.
They should be like, oh my God, huge oversight. Hey, families, here's a couple of big checks. We're so sorry. Public apology. We'll name a building after you. And here's big checks. That's what they should be doing right now.
Yeah, I'd say that's step one. Yeah.
I mean, is there anything, let me go back to the article. Is there anything in the article that says what the institution's response has been?
I don't recall if it does. I know that there's nothing saying that they've paid the families or anything yet.
Yeah. It just says the disclosure first reported by local news outlet Billy Penn. Last year, the city apologized formally to what happened, but
Princeton said they were a little cash strapped right now, so they couldn't pay the families.
What happened? Did some of the alumni not get all of their stimulus checks and then lay off employees?
Yeah.
Did they take a lot of their stimulus? Did they take their PPP loan and buy a yacht like Tom Brady did with his PPP loan after signing a $21 million deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I'm just asking.
I'm going to assume they use their COVID checks to pay for one meal at some restaurant.
This is all right. Yeah, I'm just reading. It doesn't look like there's anything in here because like some of the parents were in prison, of course. Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, well, they've got, I think I saw some stuff in there where they tried some I don't know that it was officially from the universities, but someone else tried some horseshit excuses of well, they didn't come forward and collect the bones. It's like, are you fucking out of your mind? Even if the parents of those specific children were not in prison, Do you really think that anything they said to the police was taken seriously when the police were out to murder them? Like,
Right.
even if they had said, yeah, we like the remains, the police were probably like, go fuck yourself. We're actually sad we didn't kill you. So,
yeah, I mean, the article just says that Princeton has now confirmed that they don't have the remains anymore. They've returned them or something. But sorry, gang, not enough. Sorry, Princeton. Yeah, it's another reason, like, if I'm ever, and I've never had a big company, but anytime I've ever had a position to sort of hire some people, I've always made sure I will never hire someone from the Ivy Leagues. I'm never going to hire them. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Maybe you're great. Maybe you're a great employee, but you don't need my help. So nope. I just don't. I inherently don't like you.
Yeah.
Unless, I worked my way through and I got to, okay, great. I didn't come from privilege and I just had really good grades. All right. I'll help that person out maybe. But if you came from any type of privilege and you went to an Ivy League, that's the thing, like in Hollywood, all these like Harvard writers, like, oh, they're such brilliant writers.
Oh my God. I had and they know a very specific experience of a like privileged white male, which is why it's taken so long for stories from people of color or poorer people to get into Hollywood. But what I've heard about, like, the lock that like Harvard and Princeton and Stanford have on like the comedy writing in Hollywood is like crazy.
Well, there's this dumb, it's the same way Americans are like, oh, wow, British accent sounds smart. Like, you don't know if a British person is smart or not. Like, Hollywood does the same thing. Like, oh, they're from the Ivy Leagues. Their comedy is so smart. And I would see some of these comedians perform that were from the Ivy League. I'm like, they got nothing. They got no fastball because they've never been kicked in the teeth and then had to find comedy in it. Like, what's their joke? And they're not going to call out the ruling elites because that's their fucking parents.
Right.
So what do they got to say? Oh, they know how to make snarky with fancy words. All right, great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I know I could kick your ass because you're just a punk. If you went to, I'd like to beat you up. Like, this is where, like, I think bullying's okay. If you just go to like an Ivy League kid and just shove him down and go, hey, Silver Spoon, why don't you get the fuck out of here? Like, that's when it's okay. If you bully an Ivy League kid from privilege, it's
bully
totally
exception.
Cool. Yeah. It's totally cool. Don't do it to children. Don't do anybody else. But it's some Harvard.
Unless it's one of those brilliant, like 12-year-olds who got into Harvard, then you can beat up that kid. Yeah.
That kid, I don't fault that kid. That kid was just born a genius. And
he's working on the cure for cancer, but you're pushing him down a flight of stairs like, cure cancer now, bitch.
Hey, nerd. Maybe we need that. No, I don't have a problem with the wonder kids, the wunderkind, the genius kid who just can't, is moved. I just, the rich kid who, if they didn't have rich parents, would be going to state college. Like, let's be honest.
Like, oh yeah. Well, I would, that's what I loved about the college admissions scandal was like, yeah, of course, those, like, what those parents did is wrong, but also the way that's considered legitimate is really no different. It is these parents buying a wing of the school or something. I mean, it is like exactly the same shit. It's just they didn't pretend to be a polo player. Like, and I was like, how is like mainstream America parsing these two? Like the person that pretended was a polo player, that's fucked up. But this person who just bought the school swimming pool for them and then they got in, that's totally legit.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, that's the one mistake they made. It's just like, that's why they got busted. Everybody went, we have this very clear cut way to buy your kids with their B- average into the school. Just name a library after them and just give us, we
don't understand why you went through this back door. We have a legit way for you to buy your way into our schools.
Yeah. It's like, you don't have to run a scam. Just give us, $500,000 and put it into our fund for the grant for the rich kid asshole fund or whatever. And then your dumb privileged kid can come on our school rather than lying about them being a polo player. And then they find out they're kicked out of school when they're on a yacht. Like, why do you got to go through all that? Just buy the school a yacht.
I think I think, wasn't it Dr. Dre's daughter? Like, he took a photo and Instagrammed it of his daughter getting into school, and it was right around the same time as the scandal. And he or she, I think he wrote, so proud of my daughter getting into Stanford or whatever school she's going to. And he said, no bribes necessary or something, like, ha, college admission scandal. And then everyone jumped in and pointed out that, like, he and his, partner, Jimmy Iovine or whatever, had bought like a wing of the school or something. Like, it was like, what do you mean no bribes necessary?
Yeah. You bought a wing of the school.
Even if you hadn't bought a wing of the school, you're Dr. Dre's daughter.
Yeah, you're Dr. Dre's daughter. And that wing of the school, like, how many other kids that couldn't afford college could have gone to college with that amount of money? Like, let's do it on the real then.
Right.
You're a billionaire now. You're not from the hood or the streets anymore. You're a billionaire who bought his daughter a library so she could go to whatever fancy school. Like,
yeah.
Oh,
all right.
well.
So we got two more stories. What you want to do first?
Well, I don't know. I think I have the craziest title. So I don't know if that goes next or we save that. What do you think? Like,
all right, let's go crazy title.
All right, crazy title. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I did. This is
the Mad Libs, right? You asked your friend for a noun, and then you put CIA operation before it.
Literally, if I'm going to put this in my, we've now renamed the Political Vigilante Game Show, by the way, to Anything Can Happen. We've renamed it to.
Did you really?
Yes, we did. The last episode, we said, let's just call it Anything Can Happen. So now I'm going to make this a question on a later episode of Anything Can Happen, because no one will think this is a real title. Nobody. I'll say this is a CIA operation, and I'll list what the operation was, and I'll say, was it A, this, B, that, C, this, and they'll be like, okay, that one's a fake one.
Yeah. Give them like 4 choices of names. Yeah.
Right. Or give the name of this one and say, this is a project and give some fake what the projects were that sound crazy and real, like the CIA. Either way. Yeah. So, all right, ladies. So I literally typed in CIA operation. And
did you just type in what you were eating at that moment?
I was hungry. I came off of a bike ride and I was like, God, I really like artichoke dip. So, you think I'm joking? And what came up? CIA Project Artichoke. And this is now we've expanded CIA roulette to just put in fruits and vegetables and foods, what's just like Operation Frittata. Like what's next? So
CIA Operation Peanut Butter and Mustard Sandwich.
It's just like, I don't want to know what Project Hot Dog is. I don't want to know.
No, you don't. But Clinton spent a long time on that
one. So again, I go to Wikipedia, not because I think Wikipedia is the most trusted name in news. I go there because if Wikipedia, which is used for disinformation all the time, if they can report on the basics of this, and then A, why isn't the corporate media talking about this? And B, it's probably 10 times worse than what's in Wikipedia.
Right.
So, but it was preceded by Project Bluebird. Artichoke officially arose on August 20th, 1951. Oh, one of the first operations. It was operated by the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence. Oxymoron.
Yeah.
The primary goal of Project Artichoke was to determine whether a person could be involuntarily made to perform an act of attempted assassination. What does artichokes have to do with that, Lee? Could you explain that?
Well, the first assassination was done with an artichoke. The guy shoved an artichoke in the other guy's eye.
You just lie someone to go, yeah, eat the whole heart of it. Don't cut out the thistles. And that's how they...
you just eat it all at once. You're supposed to swallow it at once. He just told him, and that was the end of it. Yeah.
Just grab the bottom of it and eat it like an apple. And that's... So again, great. The CIA wants to get inside someone's brain and manipulate it into killing another human being. That's not sinister or evil at all. That's not crazy. That's just good old fashioned American democracy.
You start to realize James Bond villains were like taking it easy. Like,
oh, they were like goddamn Girl Scouts compared to what the CIA did. They were just like selling Thin Mints.
You know, one of them was throwing a hat that could cut people. Like it's pretty tame compared to what the CIA was involved in.
One guy had a gun made out of gold. I mean, is that bad? You know, he's not murdering people with a succulent. The project also studied hypnosis, forced morphine addiction. Man, the CIA gets better and better. They've made people become morphine addicts. So
I wonder who this was done on, by the way.
Oh man. Well, so I should give a little backstory here to the audience. So morphine was the number one pain medication used in the battlefield, primarily in World War II. So when a lot of returning soldiers came back from the World War II, they were morphine addicts, which is one of the reasons that the heroin epidemic blew up in the 50s, because a lot of returning soldiers needed to keep that morphine. There's a Broadway play that's called Hat Full of Rain that kind of talks about that a little bit. It also in the 50s, you know, Jack Kerouac, and then the bebop jazz generation of Miles Davis, and then a lot of them got Bird Parker, Coltrane, they got hooked on heroin. But a lot of the heroin was, again, the addiction was predicated on returning vets coming home with a morphine addiction. So now we know from this that our good old boys at the CIA were probably helping fuel the heroin addiction that spurred in the 1950s. And I'm sure they've stopped, though. I'm sure they've stopped. I'm sure they've never.
They would never do anything this crazy.
No, it's not like they fueled the cocaine epidemic in the 80s. They didn't do that.
They really cleaned up their act. They really have.
They've been fantastic.
I mean, ever since I think Pompeo got in charge there, they've really been Boy Scouts.
Oh, so great. So forced morphine addiction and subsequent forced withdrawal. Again, a Bond villain, not as mean, not as horrible.
Yeah.
Just, you know, whatever, wanted to take over space. And the use of other chemicals, including LSD. Yeah, the CIA helped with LSD. That could be a separate episode on its own, to produce amnesia and other vulnerable states in subjects. Artichoke was the mind control program that gathered information together with the intelligence divisions of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and FBI. In addition, the scope of the project was outlined in a memo dated January 52 that asked, can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature, such as self-preservation?
Yeah, we saw how that turned out, you know, with the Unabomber, etc.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I wonder how many people like the Unabomber or these mass shooters are like CIA, you know, lab rats that just went off the rails that they couldn't control, or they're deliberately putting them out into America.
Yeah, for those of those of you listening who, I think we've mentioned it on an earlier episode, but we've never really gotten into it. But the Unabomber was used in the MK Ultra program when he was in college, and he was in college early, so he was like 15 or 16 or something, and it really fucked him up, and really made him not work well with others.
So the CIA created the Unabomber.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely, you know, his mental struggles definitely took a hard turn at that point in his life.
Wow. Again, gotta love America. Project Artichoke was the CIA's secret code name for carrying out an in-house and overseas experiments using LSD, hypnosis, and total isolation as forms of psychological harassment for special interrogations on human subjects. At first, agents used cocaine, marijuana, heroin, peyote, and mescaline, but they increasingly saw LSD as the most promising drug. Gee, I wonder why there was this LSD. Gee, it's weird. This is totally unrelatable. But, the early hippies were like radicals who were activists who really wanted to change the system. Many of them communists and socialists, and really wanted to change and stop the war machine. And then the hippie movement got co-opted by LSD and free love. So the CIA probably had nothing to do with that.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Why would they do that? It's not like their whole thing has been to just divide activist movements, and they studied this in the early 50s so then they could start implementing it in the mid to late 60s.
Yeah. No, I don't think they had any interest in stopping people from being active and political in our country.
No, not at all. Go ask Alice when she's 10 feet tall. Yeah, just tune in and check out. Get high. Go to Woodstock. Yeah. Anyway, back to our friends. Subjects who left the project were flogged with amnesia, resulting in faulty and vague memories of the experience. In 1952, LSD was increasingly given to unknowing CIA agents to determine the drug's effects on unsuspecting people. One record states that an agent was kept on LSD for 77 days. Jesus Christ.
Well, and this also gets to, again, should probably be another episode. What was his name? The scientist that the CIA gave LSD to unwittingly, was his name Olson or something? I'll look it up. But and he ended up mysteriously dying out a hotel window in New York. And the CIA has always insisted that he had just been dosed with LSD or was having flashbacks or something and happened to jump out of his hotel window. But it seems very likely that he was thrown out the window because he was, after being dosed with LSD unwittingly, he had a lot of qualms about the germ warfare that he was helping them create in the CIA labs.
And that's probably where you see that narrative that, LSD makes you want to jump out of windows. The CIA helped push that narrative to cover up the fact that they killed one of their own who was questioning their evil tactics.
Frank Olson.
Yeah, Frank Olson. Oh, boy. In 1952, LSD was increasingly given by unknowing agents to determine the drug's effects on unsuspecting people. One record states, I read that, Project Artichoke researched the potential of dengue fever and other diseases. A declassified Artichoke memo. This is the other thing that people need to know when they watch this show, and when we go to Wikipedia. Why it's on Wikipedia is because this isn't like, I'm not going to some crazy conspiratorial website. I'm going these are declassified. These are Freedom of Information Act documents,
right?
That are like anyone can look up and are verifiable. So again,
right. So while there's some things that we can't get from Wikipedia because they continue to be covered up, such as a lot of the stuff around JFK's assassination, there's plenty of things that through Freedom of Information have been revealed. And so in most of these cases, what Wikipedia is going on these older CIA projects is declassified CIA documents. So yeah, these are not Wikipedia. It's funny. Wikipedia has some positives about it if it were not kind of overrun by the imperial state, by the U.S. Imperial state. For example, like deciding which sources are legitimate in an encyclopedia is a good plan and a good thing. And so the Wikipedia, on one hand, on the good side, has decided, hey, people's blogs, we're not going to allow as sources. So if someone writes something, it doesn't matter. We won't count that as a source. Good, great. So we know we're not getting just people's thoughts. But on the other hand, on the bad side, they've also, because they're trying to cover up certain things, decided that outlets such as the Gray Zone and Mint Press and many others are not legitimate sources, but CNN, New York Times, Washington Post are legitimate sources. So they've they've taken it to the next step where it's let's sideline anything that's outside of kind of corporate media, and let's only allow in those who are kind of the choice outlets of the oligarchs.
Oh, choice outlets of the oligarchs. So let me just a declassified Artichoke memo read, not all viruses have to be lethal. The objective includes those that act short-term and long-term incapacitating agents. The CIA disputed which department would take over the operation. Finally, it was decided that an agent from the CIA research staff, former U.S. Army Brigadier General Paul F. Gaynor, would oversee it. The CIA sought to establish control over what it perceived as the weaker and less intelligent segments of society, or for potential agents, defectors, refugees, POWs, and others. A CIA report states that if hypnosis succeeded, assassins could be created to assassinate a prominent politician or, if necessary, an American official. Their own documents said we could use this to kill an American official.
However, I believe they're wrong, but I believe you could really fuck someone up by dosing them with shit, especially if they're already in a kind of tenuous mental state like Kaczynski was. Sure. I don't know that you could then. I mean, the amount of fucking. There'd be a lot more to it than the dosing. There'd be like, you'd have to mentor them from a young age and make them follow everything you do. And then you convince them that they should kill someone. It's like, yes, you could do it that way. But in that case, probably more important than the dosing is the mentorship, the kind of becoming the parent, internalized as a parent figure for them. Like with the Beltway sniper, where he had the young kid, I think it was his son or adopted son or something, who viewed him as a father. So the kid went along with it because, kids will do that. So I think you could do it with that, but I don't know that you take someone who's completely not, willing or even thinks it's a good idea at all to murder these officials, and then you dose them a bunch with LSD and you just say, hey, kill that guy. And they go, all right.
Well, I don't think it was that quick. They just took this tab and went, hey, that guy, wax him. I mean, I think what they're talking about too, and they're again in their own documents, what we just read is the first part of it is the selection of the person that is susceptible to this.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at let's look at the January 6th Capitol event. So we know that the head of the Proud Boys was an FBI informant. The head of the Oath Keepers was an FBI informant. And people within that movement they're finding people susceptible to let's do it. And you just get one or two people to get the herd moving, and that'll happen. It's like QAnon is clearly a psyop, right? And they're preying on people who are susceptible to this, who have abandoned critical thinking skills or whatever, because they've done studies that people that are really into conspiracies will just believe once they start getting into it, they'll believe any conspiracy they're told.
I know it drives me nuts when you see fans of our stuff who are like, well, I started questioning things and that's why I like your show. But then you won't entertain the flat earth. I don't understand. It's like, just because we're revealing that certain things are lies does not mean everything is a lie.
Right. Everything's not a conspiracy. Everything can't be a conspiracy. Everything is not a conspiracy. So, but this is, I think it, you look at this Project Artichoke and you have to ask questions like, was Jack Ruby in this? What, was anybody, or any of these, especially, I just look at today, every week there's a random shooting. Now, there's a mass shooting. Granted, we have a country that has untreated mental illness and easy access to guns, so you don't need a wacky conspiracy for that. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people were the CIA finds people that are mentally susceptible. I mean, you see even how they distract within movements. You see somebody even just in the little indie media space. There'll be some show, and then all of a sudden that person starts turning on everybody. And there's probably somebody close to them whispering in their ear because they know that person is susceptible. And I think this takes it to the next level.
Yeah. And I mean, there could definitely be some of that. I also think that, in left indie media, what are we talking? Maybe 100 people that are like well-known, like true indie outside of mainstream outlets. And it's like, so if you're talking 100 people, it wouldn't surprise me at all if 2 or 3 of them are, full on CIA payroll or something because once the US government realizes that a lot of people are listening to a segment of society, a segment of media that is outside of the corporate media, it's like, well, we'll do a bunch of things to try and sideline it. We'll call them Russian. We'll call them, Assad apologists, all this shit. But then we'll also, have a couple that are our own guys who lead people, grab their fans and then lead them astray. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're seeing the leading people astray. And then if anyone's susceptible, like if you like this group already kind of believes that, so I bet you I could steer them in this direction. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's easy to do,
Yep.
And it keeps America divided. So that's Project Artichoke, the weirdest name thus far on Government Secrets. Lee's opening the door of truth and letting the cat out.
Lee's letting a cat out of the room.
Who let the cats out? Lee can't.
My cat was very distraught with the CIA Artichoke. She's not a fan, and
I don't blame her. The CIA's dicks, and if I'm sure Cat's just like, you guys, humans are already fucking assholes, and now you got this artichoke thing. Open the door.
Considering how much the CIA has experimented with what they can put in people's minds, I kind of assume CIA Operation Artichoke was them experimenting with what they can put up people's asses. So
somebody had to get an artichoke up their ass. I hope. At some point, I hope at some point someone got an artichoke up there.
But see, here's the thing: is they would never name the operation that. Then it'd be called Operation, Love and Bunnies or whatever,
Operation Love Cave or something like that. I don't know it'd be something fun though.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to admit in this final story that I am stealing from my other podcast because Uncommon Censored that I host with Eleanor Goldfield, she actually did a short solo episode this week, and she gave the history of May Day. And I know it sucks to steal from the other podcast. However, May Day's coming up, and I figured, when if not now. So
I love it. And you know what? The fact that you talked, her into doing that feels a little artichokey to me. So I don't know. We're going to see how this.
I mean, I had to dose her with LSD to get her to do it. So yeah.
All right, man. Whatever you guys are into, I'm not going to judge, but as long as it's a good segment for our show, I don't care where you got it.
I don't care who you're plagiarizing.
I don't care who you had to give LSD to. And I don't care, Lee.
All right. So, I always like to quiz you on these, Graham. May 1st, May Day. Officially, what do you think it is in America? What is May 1st, as in the official U.S. holiday?
It's the day where there's some weird May basket thing that probably dates back to some sort of pilgrim killing Native Americans or something that we turned into a fun thing for kids.
Well, you're close about turning it into something it's not. So May Day officially is Law Day, the day when we celebrate the law. Now, everybody else around the world knows it as International Workers' Day.
Right.
But in the United States, because God forbid we have, and instead we've turned Labor Day in the United States, which is later in the year, we've turned that into, just a day where there's like red, white, and blue advertisements for like cushions at a store or something.
It's just another excuse for some sort of sales event.
Some sales event. But we can't have a real day that actually commemorates workers fighting back and demanding, dignity and to be treated right and various workers' rights. So 60 years ago, Eisenhower proclaimed May 1st Law Day, which the American Bar Association says is a national day set aside to celebrate the rule of law.
Because of course back then it was like, well, we need to say, because our democracy is, we have laws, unlike those crazy communists that just run around in their godless nonsense.
Yeah, and I assume this means that on all days that are not May 1st, you don't have to abide by any of the laws. So
it's the reverse of the purge. Instead of one day where you murder everybody, we would murder everybody 364 days out of the year, but 365, that's the one day where we're good.
Yep. All purge all day, all year. So
it's purge break day.
Yeah, take a break from the purge day. So International Workers' Day, though, is now officially recognized in 66 countries. And it comes from a very notorious event here in the United States. So ironically, despite the fact the event happened in the U.S., it's now celebrated around the world, but not in the U.S. So I'm getting most of this information from Eleanor Goldfield's article that she also wrote on it. So you can Google that if you'd like. But on May 1st, 1886, more than 300, so this is 1886, late 1800s, more than 300,000 people walked off their jobs across the U.S. A 300,000 person workers' strike in a U.S. that had much fewer people. After years of pleading and appealing for an 8-hour workday and safer working conditions, they were only met by Pinkerton's beatings and continuous harassment. Workers finally, had it, and 300,000 people walked off their jobs. Chicago was the epicenter of this fight and would become infamous for what is now known as the Haymarket affair, or the Haymarket riots for those who I think are trying to delegitimize them. But so it was on May 4th. There was a public meeting was called to address the police brutality dealt out during the previous days of striking. By this point, nearly 100,000 workers in Chicago had walked off their jobs. That's just in Chicago. At Haymarket Square that evening, a crowd of roughly 3,000 gathered to hear comments by anarchist organizers and workers. And I think I should pause here and just say, a lot of people, and even me for a long time, you just hear the word anarchist and you think it means that they just want everything on fire or that they want to run naked down the streets. But anarchist, if you look at the root of the word, oligarchy is ruled by an elite business class. Plutocracy is ruled by the rich. Kleptocracy is ruled by thieves. So anarchist is just no rule, as in no hierarchy, meaning you do not have rulers. So for people who are officially anarchists, it's not that they're saying that we should all kill each other or set things on fire. They're saying that they don't believe in having rulers rule them. Right. And so for those of us, and I say us because for a long time I was in this group, who just hear the word anarchy and think, oh, that means no rule of law, all out chaos. We've already been brainwashed in a way because we're associating having no one ruling over us as chaos. So really, no one ruling over us could be viewed as a positive thing.
It's so true. And I've had that explained to me because I was in that same camp too. Anarchist just means, oh, you want to smash everything down. And right. In my chat several years ago, no, Graham, it means, we just don't, everything you just outlined, which I think is great. The problem is the propaganda has been so effective. They just need a rebranding. They need a different.
Yeah. No, I, as someone who cares a lot about communicating, I don't think that, saying we're the party of anarchy or whatever is going to do very well anytime soon. Because it's just, you're right. The propaganda has been so effective.
Yeah. It's not going to work.
Anyway, so you got 3,000 people in Chicago at this protest, and a lot of great speakers were there. The mayor of Chicago was even there. The crowd showed no signs of rowdiness, but continued resolve was apparent. As the meeting wound down, cops began to roughly disperse the crowd, and shortly thereafter, a bomb was thrown into the police ranks. Now, no one knows who did it. No one was sure who to blame. Many people think it could have been a police agitator or something, but the blame quickly went on the anarchist organizers. And so in the following melee, 11 people died and upwards of 100 were injured. So this next part is from Wikipedia. In the internationally publicized legal proceedings that followed, 8 anarchists were convicted of conspiracy. The evidence, and I think Eleanor says in her article, only 3 of the 8. So 8 were convicted of conspiracy. 3 of the 8 were there that day. Meaning you got 5 that weren't even at the fucking protest and they were convicted of conspiracy. The evidence was that one of the defendants may have built the bomb, but none of those on trial had thrown it. 7 were sentenced to death and 1 to a term of 15 years in prison. The Illinois governor at the time commuted 2 of the sentences to terms of life in prison. Another committed suicide in jail before facing the gallows. The other 4 were hanged on November 11th, 1887. In 1893, so only 6 years later, the Illinois governor pardoned the remaining defendants and criticized the trial. As Eleanor Goldfield says, the goal was, as we've seen with other trials, you and I have talked about some of them, the Chicago 7, Bobby Seale, Huey P. Newton, Leonard Peltier, Mumia Abu-Jamal. As with many other trials, it was really just to set an example about dissidents. Chelsea Manning, even Julian Assange, even those people that haven't yet had trials, the goal was just to sideline dissidents. According to labor historian William Adelman, quote, no single event has influenced the history of labor in Illinois, the United States, or even the world more than the Chicago Haymarket affair. It began with a rally on May 4th, 1886, but the consequences are still being felt today. Although the rally is included in American history textbooks, very few present the event accurately or point out its significance. The site of the incident was designated a Chicago landmark in 1992. A sculpture was dedicated in 2004. And in addition, the Haymarket Martyrs Monument was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1997 at the defendant's burial site in Forest Park. So there you have what May 1st is really, and instead we call it Law Day.
Which we don't even do that anymore. Now it's May baskets. Like it has nothing to do with the worker, has nothing to do with labor. It isn't even a remembrance day for those people that were murdered that just wanted better wages.
Yeah.
It's just, boy, this is what America does. I mean, we basically, like, the lies of Thanksgiving are basically what we do with so many holidays. It's just like, that's the template of like,
right.
This was an awful thing that we're going to paint and make it sound so wonderful. Like it's National Hugging Day. It actually started when we butchered puppies back in the 1870s and set them on fire. But now we just call it hugging. Everybody hug. Like even like the, I've done this video a couple of times on Political Vigilante. The original Mother's Day actually started in the Civil War as mothers saying it was an anti-war event. We're tired of our sons dying for these ridiculous wars.
Right.
It came back to even more prominence during World War I. But now it's like, buy mom flowers.
Graham, this would have been a good segment for next week. I don't know what the fuck you're doing, giving away content like this.
All right, I'll do a longer version next time. And I'll tie it into some project with a fruit.
Yeah.
I'm sure the reason it got taken out, is some. I'll go into that next week. But
That was a teaser for next week.
Yeah. Government secrets. Next episode teaser. Burp, 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 burp. Wow, wow, wow.
We fixing your holidays.
We're going to make your holidays seem really awful once you learn the truth. It's time to ruin holidays on Government Secrets. Yeah. Flag Day was actually Strap-on Dildo Day originally. And maybe that's a good thing for some people. I'm not judging.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, some people might really enjoy that day.
Hey, have a great Strap-on Dildo Day, everybody. Really, as long as it's consensual, I don't care what you do. Well, Lee, I think that's our episode, buddy. 3 solid set. We had an update and 2 segments.
That was a big episode, and I can't stress this enough for anybody new to the show. Go back and listen to the old episodes because we're not going to go through it again. All right, you got to go back and get the history that we already did.
Hey, I forget. Is there like a Google Doc set up where we put the subjects in somewhere and we have set? Because
yes, there is. The little people like me fill in the topics every week.
All right, because I haven't done that at all.
I know you haven't, but
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I thank you for doing that.
I did. Yeah, if I'm not sure whether we might mention certain things, but if I'm not sure whether we did a whole segment on it, then I'd do a quick search of that doc. But something I thought is I was thinking people could email me topic ideas if they'd like. They could email leecampmail@gmail.com, MAIL, leecampmail. And if they'd like to send me topic ideas. But you can only do that if you've listened to the past episodes, so you're not all emailing me JFK assassination when we've already done it.
Yeah, don't send any project or operation ones that we've already done.
That's the caveat.
That's the caveat. Do not waste our time. But I will just say this. So I was talking to Ron Placone yesterday, and we're starting to tentatively put together a tour. Starting on the West Coast in September, and then a real full one in October that like starts in the Midwest, where we're literally doing a show almost every night of the week. We're coming to the East Coast, and we're taking a night off, I think, in DC. And maybe on that night off, we do a Government Secrets live.
That'd be cool. Well, that's not much of a night off for you.
Not in the least. But
what do you? I mean, we can cut this from the podcast version if you'd like. How are you working it? Like, how are you doing the venues with number of people and shit like that?
I don't know. Are you around this? Maybe we'll talk this weekend. Like, we'll have a longer conversation about it because I'll tell you what we're doing because it's probably a longer conversation.
That sounds good. I mean, I think we should live stream our phone call whenever you call me.
Yeah, let's just talk door splits with venues. This is going to be fascinating with the audience.
Can you give me like chair layouts? Like, how are the chairs going to be out in the room? Because we need to live stream this. Lee and Graham's weekly chair layout discussion.
We're going to talk about rental car bookings and hotel reservations. It's going to be exciting. More government secrets on how road comics do logistics. Yeah, that'll be exciting. Well, all right, Lee, we'll talk. I'll call you this weekend.
Sounds good, man.
But where can people get as much of their Lee Campness?
All of my stuff's at leecamp.com, and everybody should go there because the other stuff's harder to remember. So leecamp.com. I'm on Twitter at leecamp. And New Redacted Tonight comes out tonight, so do not miss that. If you want to see the full episode uncut as soon as possible, you can go to portable.tv. It's got a bunch of TV shows on there, so you can scroll down to Redacted Tonight and play the latest episode there. So.
Sweet. Folks, everything that I've got is at grahamelwood.com. I'm also at Graham Elwood on social media, grahamelwood.com. My Patreon, my Rockfin. Go join Rockfin, everybody, because you get my premium content, Lee's premium content, and everybody on the platform. It's blockchain, it's cryptocurrency, it's awesome. And of course, I have a Graham Elwood store at grahamelwood.com where you can get political vigilante merchandise, and it's a great way to support what I'm doing because I'm still demonetized by CIA Tube. So, Operation Silence the Vegan or whatever operation I'm part of.
Silence the vegan with a Marine Colonel haircut.
Semper Fi, Lee Camp. Semper Fi. All right, man. Well, thanks. Yeah. All right, dude. Well, good to see you. We'll talk this weekend. We'll next week is episode 40. It's kind of a big one, buddy.
Oh man, let's do it.
Let's do it for sure. All right, man. Take care.
Later.
Bye. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at grahamelwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.